Discourse analysis presentations from Monica Gonzalez and Fanny Medina. The video we chose is from the Roosevelt Library. It is a 5th and 6th grade social studies class taught in Spanish about the causes of French Revolution. There is approximately 21 to 23 students in the class. It seems to be a dual language program. There are 2 identifiers in the video that show us this. One, the wall is color-coded blue and green to indicate Spanish and English. And 2, the teacher mentions a bridge being done at the end of the video, which identifies as a dual language program. A brief description of what is going on in the video before we start our analysis. So, the teacher is teaching a lesson on the French Revolution to 5th and 6th graders. She begins the class by preparing students to watch a video. She tells them that just like they have done close readings before, they will be using the same technique to watch a video on the causes of the French Revolution. The first time they watch the video, she gives them the task of simply understanding the information provided from the video. After watching the video, students do a turn and talk about their first impressions of the French Revolution. The second time they watch the video, they are asked to choose a specific lens that they would like to focus on, such as people, places, events, and take notes on a graphic organizer they have drawn on their notebooks. We quoted Golub and Ernest Slavitt when they say, ultimately, one important goal for learning academic language is to afford and promote thinking and communicating about issues in more abstract, technical, and deeper ways. We want to start our analysis by talking about academic language. Golub and Ernest Slavitt say that academic language refers to the language used in school to acquire new or deeper understanding of the content and communication that understanding to others. In this case, the students are talking about the French Revolution. Therefore, the students should be able to describe with complexity the causes of the French Revolution. In this example, you see how the student explains what she has seen in the video in her own words, and the teacher reinforces or restates what the student has says with academic language. I will be reading the example from the transcript and then I will explain further. So student 3 Grace says que la persona con todos los lujos usaron todo el dinero y que tomaron like their advantages, like they took advantage. Here you can see that the student switches from Spanish to English. Let's see what the teacher replies. So the teacher replies with, se aprovecharon, ¿no? Entonces tu primera impresión más que nada fue una impresión de inequidad y desigualdad social, ¿verdad? Porque estás hablando sobre que los ricos tenían mucho y los pobres tenían muy poco. So to begin with, the student didn't know how to complete her statement in Spanish, therefore she switched to English. But then the teacher reinforces that missing vocabulary word by correcting her when she replies to her by saying se aprovecharon, ¿no? And then she reinforces more academic vocabulary when she says tu primera impresión más que nada fue una impresión de inequidad y desigualdad social. So she adds these vocabulary words that the student may not have to reinforce what the student has stated. So after using the vocabulary word, she clarifies what she means by using everyday language. So although she stated these vocabulary words, she goes back and explains further what she means by this. When she says, porque estás hablando sobre que los ricos tenían mucho y los pobres tenían muy poco, which would reinforce the word desigualdad.
And this slide is another example of academic language use in the classroom. In this slide, the teacher reinforces academic language by providing students with different ways of saying talk, adding to the academic discourse. And so in this particular example, she uses the word decir, hablar, discutió, y dijeron. In this example, the teacher is asking the students to recall like what they discussed with their partner after they saw a video. But in this, in this like minute and maybe last 30 seconds in which she asked the students to talk about the video that they were watching, she provided them with 4 different ways of saying talk in Spanish. In this slide, we have a quote from the G article that says, discourses are not units or tight boxes with neat boundaries. Rather, they are ways of recognizing and getting recognized as certain sorts of who's doing certain sorts of what's. And when Monica and I were discussing what does discourse mean to us, one of the ways in which this quote resonated to us was the way in which we ask our students to put on, for example, their scientist thinking cap, or we're gonna talk like mathematicians, or we're going to discuss, or we're gonna talk like scientists, or we're gonna become the author. So giving our students that identity so that they know the types of conversations that are about to happen during that time block, for example, which is why we picked this quote. So going right along with discourse, in this example, the student 1 demonstrates that they are translanguaging from the student's first discourse to the second discourse. She starts her sentence in Spanish and ends it with English. Throughout her conversation with the teacher, she changes languages. So in this example, ¿cuál es tu primera impresión? Que el rey really needed some people to help him out. Y entonces necesitaba que hacer decisiones buenas, pero luego no. Hizo cosas malas y más malas, así que finalmente todos se cansaron. And the teacher says, Cole, ven con nosotros. ¿Cuál era el contexto histórico en cuanto al rey? El rey, acuérdate, ¿cuántos años tenía? Like 19. Era muy joven. So you can see how, although the teacher's maintaining the target language, which is Spanish, her students are using their full linguistic repertoire in order to be able to communicate back to their teacher. In this other example, the same thing happens. In this example, student 4 uses her primary discourse to finish communicating her idea with the teacher. She begins by using her secondary discourse, being Spanish, and finishes by using English, being her primary discourse. And the reason why we assumed, because this isn't our own classroom, but the reason why we assumed that English is her primary discourse is because when she's talking in Spanish, you can hear a very heavy accent, and so the phonemes are not quite there yet. And then she instantly switches to English, and she sounds way more comfortable and responding in English, which is why we are assuming that English is her primary discourse and Spanish is the secondary discourse.
Our third part of our analysis, we focus on academic conversation. We quote Zwers and Crawford when they say, paired academic conversation can provide such experiences equipping students with communication and thinking skills needed in school and beyond. With that being said, in our analysis, we've seen that there was a lack of academic conversation. Students do turn and talks, but they are only given 1 minute and there is no structure to the turn and talk. This is one example of the transcript. So the first part begins at minute 7:10, and the teacher says, okay, vamos a pararlo ahí. Habla con la persona al lado. ¿Qué fue tu primera impresión de la información que te produjo este video? ¿Cuál es tu impresión de la Revolución Francesa? But then after 1 minute, at minute 8:10, the teacher says to the class again, okay, regresa conmigo en 5, 4, 3, 2 y 1. Escuché a algunas personas hablar sobre que la primera impresión, ¿listas? Que la primera impresión más que nada fue sobre el rey, las actitudes que tomó el rey en esa revolución en específico. ¿Alguien más discutió el rey? ¿Qué dijeron ustedes, Maritza? So the teacher only gives the student 1 minute to talk with their partners. This is not sufficient. This is not enough time for the both partners to share what they have seen in the video. And also there's no structure assuming that there is no structure because she doesn't mention sentence stems or vocabulary words that the students may use to discuss the video. So after doing the turn and talk, the teacher asks the students to do a share out loud to the whole class. And in Swears and Crawford's article about accelerating oral language with academic conversation, they state that most class discussions limit the amount of time each student gets to talk, and responding in front of many others often intimidates English learners. So I can see how having a whole class discussion can be a little intimidating for English learners to discuss what their findings on the video. So this limits English language learners. We also seen another example here in this part of the transcript. This is later on in the video. In this example, the teacher is asking them to do a turn and talk. She says, te voy a dar un momento para que platiques con las personas a tu lado para poder escribir algunos detalles bajo tus ideas o bajo tus temas que escogiste para poder seguir ese lente, ¿ok? Tienes como unos 4 minutos ahorita con las personas en la alfombra. O puede ser independiente también. It becomes a little confusing when the teacher is asking the students to do another turn and talk to complete any additional details under their ideas and their themes, but then says, or you can be independent too. I think if the teacher wanted the students to be part of this academic conversation, she should omit saying that they have the choice of being independent, of working independently.
Give the teacher in this dual language classroom. First recommendation would be to encourage oral language use. The teacher can implement small group work to encourage more student academic conversation. We notice in the video that the teacher does a lot of the talking, and she does provide opportunities for her students to discuss. It may be just a video, but it was very difficult to understand, or even for us to notice her checking in with all the small groups and their discussions. We would also recommend that she encourage students to use the 6 features of academic talk. Another thing that we noticed is that we saw sort of a lack of participation from her students, and we wonder if it's because students may not be as comfortable discussing the topic due to vocabulary. And so a second recommendation we would give is prior to this lesson, teachers should take the time to introduce and define words and concepts that students need in order to be able to discuss the video that they watched. For example, the teacher introduced the word desigualdad, but students did not really respond to it. They responded to it by explaining the concept of desigualdad, but they didn't necessarily use the word when talking about the video. So providing students with sentence stems or even key vocabulary words to be able to discuss the video prior to them watching the video. We're assuming that, the teacher already went over the definition of desigualdad and other vocabulary words that are important to this video that they watched. However, we recommend that there be some sort of reminder at the beginning of the lesson where the teacher specifically asks the students that she wants them to use these vocabulary words in their discussions. Um,
And these are the resources we used. I hope you enjoyed our discourse analysis. Thank you.